goes. Good morning, welcome to a morning outlook. This is Kim speaking on Friday the 8th of October. So non-farm payrolls day, here we are. It seems to fly past. We've got both the Canadian and US payroll days today. In fact, let's just bring in the Forex calendar. So the risk events 1:30, that's the largest risk event. We do have, what do we have? ECB President Lagarde speaking this afternoon, due to speak on online B20 and Rome. Okay, we'll see. And Treasury Secretary Yellen speaking, due to speak at the B20 event. Okay, so it's not an event where they'll be necessarily speaking about their own maybe the collective circumstances anyway, so I'm not too fussed by that 105 business. I'm more interested in the obviously non-farms, and non-farm payrolls is, well, employment is where the Fed have been hanging their hat in terms of get out of jail, not having to increase anything or reduce anything in terms of the the spending that they're making. I would expect a decent move around it if it comes out. It was a positive surprise on the ADP. The ADP is notoriously a poor guide, although last month for the first time it was a decent guide, so we'll see. But expecting more, possibly pushing more into dollar strength as opposed to anything. Now, actually, whilst I'm on that, let's just bring this back in. And this morning, one of the things that's pushing the markets is we're seeing the yields increase again. Bonds selling, and as they're sold, the dollar strengthens and the yields strengthen. So you can just look at the yields. There's a good correlation with a strong dollar and strong yields, or strong yields results in strong dollar, and we've seen that so far this morning. Coming through, then starting with the euro dollar, and it's already selling off here. Rolling back, it's a bit of a mess actually when you look at it. Yesterday looked like it was bouncing and continued bouncing for a while, but it got into that horrible old chop, and it's just, I mean, it just draws traders in left, right and centre. Where was it? Midday. I looked at it about midday, and it was just absolutely ugly as sin. So best avoided. Maybe best waiting for non-farms on that particular pairing. At the moment we're seeing a bit of a bounce occur here, but you can see how tight the pivots are pinched. You don't really need to even look at that. You just see how tight things were yesterday. Such a what we were in at one stage, probably about a 25-30 pip range. 25 pips roughly, 25 pip range. You can't do too much out of that. As they say, you can't make a silk purse out of a pig's ear, and that was a pig's ear yesterday. Now moving on, the pound, well, it was just as choppy. You see where we are on a daily basis. It was almost an inside day. Ended up a little bit more positive. It doesn't really show how choppy it was here, but it was choppy. There we go. There's the choppiness that was sitting in it, and it's just not worth trying unless you can see a clear way. And well, maybe at times it does give a perceived clear way, and then it's worth a go. But otherwise, it's worth just waiting. Otherwise, just giving your money away. Just for the sake of being in a trade. Remember, being in cash is a position. The pound here then, at the moment, put lower highs in, looks a bit soft. I still think it's probably the better bet for the upside if it happens. I say when it happens. If it happens, it maybe give a bit better push. But every time I say that, of course, it sells off like it did on Wednesday there, and just really tanked off there. Now looking at either R1, S1 sort of targets. The S1 looks a favourable one at the moment. Maybe a break of the 50 later. Post 8 o'clock may see it continue. The yen's been really pushing up a little bit more, and it's well, just going where I would expect. It's effectively the dollar's strength against the yen here is prevailing. It's looking good at the moment. Solid movement through, and hardly a pullback, but So in fact, it's gone through the Asian session really strong there. We just end up with a bit of divergence maybe just across here. It's just a bit soft now, and this is what we see is it will can easily run back into a bit of consolidation. Talking of which, the Aussie, well, actually it's not done too bad. It has been sitting in consolidation for days after days, big sort of periods of it. Yesterday it sort of got a little bit more, and we saw it push through, but even so, it's quite a messy chart really, with this sort of the whips all back. I mean, you think you're into a decent trend, and then it takes out the previous low, but then turns around and goes back up again. And difficult one at the moment. It's confirmed a lower high, and it's looking on the soft side, but come 8 o'clock that might switch around. But at the moment I favour just erring on a bit more downside maybe, but it's like the pound, it seems slightly stronger against the dollar, or a backup at least. Canadian dollar, he says, it's just really we've seen oil coming off, and I'll come back to oil in a minute, but it's actually the Canadian dollar's done pretty well overall. It's one of the sort of stronger ones there. US dollar, Canadian dollar I'm looking at here. To me it just looks like maybe it's got some further downside. Seeing a bit of a bounce at the moment. These can be quite unreliable, these sort of morning bounces, morning moves in general. Yesterday it sort of looked like it's selling off at 7 o'clock. We saw the bounce, but then later on in the afternoon, come 2 o'clock, boom, off it goes. Well, that's a bit of a story, the Canadian dollar at the moment. Watch it later in the day. Okay, that's a CAD, and I think with non-farms and the Canadian non-farms, it's certainly worth waiting. New Zealand dollar, again, it's a bit like it's a hell of a mess yesterday. These markets just don't seem to know where they want to go. Coming out to the dailies, you can't make too much. In fact, the New Zealand dollar still looks a bit on the softer side there. It's breaking down at the moment, this upper trend it's done on the 4-hourlies. In fact, it's probably bear flag. The overall lower highs, lower lows on here sort of sets the scene, I guess, and it's just sort of breaking south at the moment, just looking soft. Okay, a couple of currencies, euro yen, couple of cross pairs rather. Euro yen, well, it's been dancing all over the shop here as well. It may be some of these cross pairs is just a bit cleaner intraday at the moment. If we come down to the 60-minute here, you just see it wasn't a great day yesterday. In fact, I say just a bit cleaner. It didn't whipsaw back below the lows quite so much. It held up a little bit better, and it was just a bit cleaner. I talked yesterday about the EURCAD as a bearish signal, looking for its daily pivot. It's just continuing nicely. It's more of a sort of swing sort of pattern. This move here, it doesn't look very much yesterday's 8 o'clock move, but it pulled back. It came just fractionally short of the daily pivot there. Could see some, if it does similar today, to me it's opportunities to add into position. But it's for me, this is looking soft, and got further downside to happen. It may be, when you look at the dailies, it may be look, well, this can't keep going quite as strong as it is. Well, yep, I think at some stage it may be worth taking a bit of profit off it, but for now, for me, it's more of a swing trade, and it's hang in there. Okay, maybe needing to come out to the bigger time frames just to show that it's actually broken through the 200. It's still got some legs potentially. Right, okay, that's the currencies. Quick look at gold, and well, let's come off the daily monthlies. Here we go. So not a lot here. I said this yesterday. It's in a range. You just come back down to 4-hourly. It's in too much of a range for me to be looking at anything on a daily basis, even a swing basis at the moment. It's not the clearest of patterns. If it can get back above its monthly pivot there at about 1770, it becomes a bit more bullish, but not of interest to me at the moment. Oil. So I'll come to this. So oil, well, it did pitch up. It sold off quite strongly in the morning there to change course, and it's quite solidly there at 12 o'clock, a bit early. On the 12 o'clock bar, he says. 12 o'clock, it didn't come in at 12 o'clock. It was early. It was a 12 o'clock bar that started the movement. If you were looking to buy into this, I mean, the 2 o'clock is my preference. Well, did give a little retracement, but nothing easy to jump on board on. But it has since then pushed back up there. I still, as I said yesterday, even with these retracements, I just sort of think, well, is it going to push up towards that $100 before we see something a bit more significant happen? It's at the moment, it's that 80, 79, 78, around that $80. It seems to be a bit of a ceiling, but I think any sort of surge could see it running through that and maybe even push the shorts further up. Okay, big money, by the way, is still quite strongly into the oil. Okay, switching over to charts. Switch charts. It's just this one. As we're on Bitcoin. Bitcoin yesterday in the end saw a bit of profit taking, just remained, but it's holding up there at this stage, and does look okay for possibly, as I said yesterday, a push up to that sort of 60,000 sort of level back to test the prior highs there. So it's certainly a possible continuation on the books there. The other cryptos not really managing to follow suit quite so much. Ethereum yesterday did pitch up a little bit higher, but they're still lower than their intermediate lows here, or previous highs, beg your pardon. They're still looking a bit sort of softer. Bitcoin certainly pulling ahead of the others as you run through here. Right, equity market indices. No bank holiday. Have we got an open market then overnight? Then 8th of October we have. Hurrah! Yeah, 30th September, 8th of October. There you go. First open, and it opens up on a bit of a bounce. I'm still expecting this Hong Kong CSI 300 to drop below my trend line at some stage, but at the moment catching a bit of a bounce there on return to work. The Nikkei rather, has been really bearish this week, but caught a bit of a bounce, pushed up, it gapped up open, pushed up, but couldn't hang on to there. We've seen these sort of shooting stars. Every time this sort of gaps up, you just end up with a bit of a shooting star at the moment. To me, it still looks soft. Moving to the European markets, FTSE, well, solid day up yesterday, engulfed the body yesterday of that previous candle, and looking erring towards the bullish side there. The DAX following suit in terms of a more positive sort of move, but opened up this morning. They're a bit iffy at the moment, and the CAC there, French markets, they're also pushing up yesterday. So all the markets just finding their a bit more strength. S&Ps continued up yesterday. I'm still not overly convinced with these up moves at the moment, but perhaps we'll see a bit more buying. But non-farms today could be we could see a lot of chop leading into non-farm. A great day, as I said, 1:30 key time this morning, or today rather, this afternoon. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next week on Monday. Bye for now. Where's that jobbed?